Now, when you saw Mr. Fleming Daniels there, do you know him by another name? Ill. Is that what you called him? Uh-huh. When you saw Mr. Daniels there, what was he doing typically? Well, most of the occasions he was just there on, talking to the other bosses and instructing people on different things to do and playing pool. And we used to gamble a lot, gambling on dice, gambling on shooting pool. And also there was an occasion there that he was also picking up drugs as well. Now, you said that he's there and he's talking to the other bosses and everything. Is that in the area where you're picking up the drugs and dropping off the money? Yeah, it was like it's all on one floor, all on one level of the living room, and the bedroom is all just like one floor, one large common area. From one area to the next, can you see what's going on? Well, if you're at the pool table, you could actually see where you're receiving the bag at, unless it was different day when they were actually doing it downstairs. But in most cases, if you're in one area, yes, you can see where the drugs is being packed. Now, if it comes down to where the money is being counted at, that's going to be in the back room. That's J-Bo's bedroom. You can't see from the gambling area to where the bedroom is. You said that on one occasion you actually saw Mr. Fleming Daniels picking up drugs. Tell us about that incident. I was there picking up about 20 of them to go to Tennessee with it. He was also there picking up as well. The exact amount, I don't know, but it was probably just, from the size of the bag, it was a little bit more than mine. Why is it that this particular incident sticks in your mind? Because, it wasn't a regular time that I would see him over there doing that. Now, the gate. Does anybody actually live at that residence? Yeah, Chad Brown was living there. D-Shock was living there. I believe it had roughly about 4 bedrooms to the house. I believe Blue stayed there, was living there on and off, but there was always somebody home. Now, let's go back to the process of them bringing the drugs in. How were the drugs? Were you ever there when the drugs actually arrived at the house? On one occasion, or maybe more than one occasion, about 2 occasions. How did they get to the house? Normally there was a white limousine and there was also a Lincoln Town car and there was also a van. Those are the 2 ones that stood out in my mind. Are these cars that you had obtained for the BMF? No. Did you ever see where the drugs were in these vehicles? Yeah, there was trap compartments hidden behind the seats. Like if you're going to enter a limousine and you're opening the back door, they will be on the long wall here. If you've ever been inside a limousine, across from that would be the little bar area that they have. But they have a long seat that goes all the way to the back. It would be behind that seat. That seat would automatically fold down. So you actually saw them take drugs out of this compartment before? Yes. Once the cars arrived, what was the process? Well, at that particular point, I spoke earlier to you about there's a room that's downstairs, and it was taken out, counted, and separated into, orders that you would have if you have ordered something from Sam's Club or anywhere else they would break down. If you have 120 of them, they would break them down to who's getting what. So when everyone is actually coming through, this is sometimes could be during the day so that everyone gets their orders and it all be done in less than an hour. All right. What was the volume? What was the quantity of drugs that they were bringing in, like the limos and town cars, from your experience? They would normally hold about 100 to 150. 150 what? Kilograms. Keys. How frequently would these loads come in from your experience? Probably once every 10 days. Now, when you were there picking up your drugs, you said J-Bo was there. Was Meech ever there when you picked up your drugs? Not at that location, but at a different location. That was at a house that was on Glen Ridge that we called the Elevator House. I show you what's been marked as Government's Exhibits 7-A and 7-B. Do you recognize those? Yeah, that's the location. That's the house. Now, this is what you refer to as the elevator? Correct. Why is it referred to as the elevator? That was a name that I actually gave it because there was a glass elevator being installed inside the unit. And that's where you saw Meech whenever you went to pick up drugs? Right. When you're around J-Bo and Meech whenever you were going to pick up your drugs, were they actually handing out the drugs? At that location there, I received it directly from J-Bo. The elevator? Yes. Was that unusual for J-Bo to hand you the drugs? No, because that was their personal house, so that was their usual thing. What about Meech? Did Meech ever actually hand you drugs? No. Did you ever see Meech touching the drugs? Literally touching the drugs? No. Now, you said you knew the defendant, Mr. Daniels. How did you first meet Mr. Daniels? I first met him at the White House. He was with Meech at the time. Can you give us an approximate date? Approximately, that would have to have been 2002. Did you have any business with Mr. Daniels? Not at the time I didn't, no. Did you later on? Yes, actually around June of 2003. What was that business? I had obtained for him a vehicle, car. What kind of car? It was a convertible Ferrari Medina. What's the value of that car, approximately? About $150,000. $150,000? Uh-huh. And how did he purchase this vehicle? Well, it was done under the same finance plan I do most of them. His involvement to it was that he had to put down $40,000 cash. So he brought you $40,000 cash all at once? No, we initially took $25,000 down from him. That was in cash? That was in cash. What about the remaining $15,000? It was upon delivery. So when I delivered the vehicle to him at at my Lenox Avenue address, we did it inside the parking garage. He brought the remaining of the $15,000 and took the vehicle. Where did you get the first $25,000 from him? I received it at the hotel. There's a hotel called the Swiss Hotel. It's diagonally across from Phipps Plaza. Just there in the parking lot, he handed you $25,000? Actually, it's in the parking deck outside there's a valet parking area. So it would be, in that area. Did he just hand you the physical cash? Or was it in something? Yeah, it was inside a bag. It wasn't physically out of his hands. And what were the monthly payments on this car? $2,300. And who made those payments? The vehicle didn't go a long term, but the first 2 months he paid it. Mr. Daniels paid it. Why didn't it go long term? Well, that vehicle is designed with an e-gear, so it's kind of not like a stick shift, It's a little more sophisticated driving, and the transmission got burned out, and he felt as though that the transmission was already bad to begin with, but the owner of the vehicle said there was nothing wrong with the transmission. So that vehicle wound up getting towed away because he called and said that the vehicle won't do anything. So we had to send a tow truck to go ahead and get the vehicle, and it went to a shop that was in Vegas to do the repairs on the vehicle. And I had to credit him for having a certain amount of money in the vehicle, and I wound up giving him a different vehicle later, which was a BMW X5. Okay. Now, you said earlier that you saw Mr. Daniels picking up drugs at I believe it was the gate. Did you say? Correct, the gate. Now, what was your understanding of Mr. Daniels' relationship at that point, or his occupation at that point? The BMF organization was his occupation. Did he have any other role within BMF? Well, I would say he was definitely right below J-Bo, so third in command. What makes you think that? Well, because he didn't take orders, he gave orders.